Man to man, combat hand to hand, hands locked, ready for the last stand, elbow drops, kicks fade bang. If I can hate you, levitate, better settle mate, lights out, knocked out by the heavyweight.
Hi, it's Toby from Heavyweight MMA. Lucky today to have Mr. Erik Paulson as our guest, lifetime martial artist, fighter, actor, stuntman, sadistic bastard on the mats, and owner and head coach at Combat Submission Wrestling in Fullerton, California. How are you, man?
Great, thanks for having me. I'm sad that you stayed up till 4 a.m. to do the interview.
No, this is what happens when you want to talk to people on the other side of the world. I can't expect you to be getting up to bad time, so I'll do it. So it's all good. No problem at all. Now, man, I've been listening to a lot of your podcasts, and there are so many, right? And some very long podcasts, and I see a lot of people asking sort of the same questions. And unfortunately, I can't listen to all of them, but the ones I listen to, I'll try not to do the same sort of questions. I think it'll be a little bit better for you.
That'd be great.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, people talked about a lot about your life and everything, so I don't want to go into that too much. And anyone listening that wants to learn more, I'll put a link to a couple of the ones down underneath if anyone wants to listen. But there's a lot of in-depth things about when you're young and how you started judo and whatnot, fell into the individual sport rather than the team sport after being disheartened, etc. But yeah, people can look into that a bit further rather than going over the same sort of stuff that you've been doing regularly. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. I don't know if you've been asked these other questions, but I heard you being asked more about your history than anything. I wanted to go in a little bit more detail. Firstly, just about styles, man. Obviously, you've had so much experience in many different styles. From what I can remember, it was you started in judo. You touched on things like taekwondo, boxing, karate, aikido, wrestling, catch wrestling, jeet kune do, savate. You did some of those stick fighting, anis, kali, these things, kung fu, sambo, muay thai, chianadas, just everything pretty much, right? And of course, BJJ was another big part of your martial arts experience, right?
Yeah, when BJJ first became popular in America, we had heard about these Brazilian brothers that had an open challenge. And I was actually training in the garage at Tim Tackett's garage. It was a JKD, basically for street fighting. It was what we were doing is we were trying to cover all principles or all arts that were out and introduce, and to see how combative and how useful they could be in a real situation. So at that time, the JKD and the Kali had already been established. What was new at that time was the silat. The Indonesian silat was being introduced here through Guru Dan and Pendekar Paul Dutoit and Herman Sawanda and the Dutoit brothers. Guru Dan had learned from Eddie Joffrey earlier and some other guys too, but Bruce Lee was always kind of prompting him to check into it. Also French kickboxing, Sabat, Daniel Duby, Salim Asli, Francis Echnard, and then Nikolai Sonyak. And the Muay Thai, there was no answer at that time for the Thai kick. Everyone's like, oh, you shield the kick, you ride the kick. And then Shuto, Yorinaga Nakamura came in at 1988 at the Inosanto Academy, and he taught his first seminar, which I took. And that was 2 years after I had begun jiu-jitsu. And so you got to say there's kind of a template that was taught for private lessons for students. Horian had them numbered. So like he would teach our men to open the guard and then pass the guard. And I said, when you put your arm in like that, are you susceptible to getting triangle choked? And he goes, that would be the next lesson down the road. So it was smart because it enticed you to want to learn more and more in the art, because it was all self-discovery and there was nothing out about it. And I remember traveling in the back of Guru Dan Inosanto's van as he was going to Harbor City College to teach a mixed martial arts class. It was a PE class. And someone said, hey, he teaches at the college if you want to pick up an extra class. So I went, and Sifu Larry Hartzell invited me. asked if it was okay, and I went and took Guru's class, and it was really actually very high level for a PE class for normal people, but it was spectacular. And I got to the most important thing for me was to listen to him talk. And I remember at that time he was saying, this is 1988, maybe 87, 87. He's like, yeah, I'm watching the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He said, I don't see any difference between that and Newaza ground judo. And I was like, well, the flavor is different. Their emphasis is specifically on the guard. And he's like, well, I would have to look more into it. And I said, well, Guru, you should do some privates with either the Gracies or they have cousins also that train that are coming up. And that would be the Machado brothers. And I think it would be good that you would take some privates so you could understand. And it would also be probably really good for your lower back. And that's what changed him. He started doing some private lessons with Rigan Machado at the time. And Rigan gave him a whole set of exercises that really opened and helped heal his back. Because he was on an airplane every weekend. I remember him coming in the academy. He had to wear a belt around his waist because his lower back was hurting so bad. And I'm going to tell you, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu saved and healed his back. And it was all the exercises that Master Rigan had him be doing, which was the bridging and the shrimping. And he had to do laps upon laps of shrimps. And it was so funny. He could do 2 laps for every one person's lap. That's how fast he's an expert sprinter because of his track background. And so he used the same thing on the mat. He would just up and down. He would be swimming up and down with the shrimps. And I was like, slow down, Guru. You're embarrassing all of us. You're 30 years older and you're embarrassing all us young guys. So anyways, what was your question? Sorry.
I just talking about the styles, but we've gone up into some other interesting things. First of all, about the back, man. I always thought that BJJ and wrestling kind of made your back worse. Is it just those individual exercises that kind of help? Because a lot of my mates that have done wrestling, grappling, all have lower back problems. Yeah.
Well, here's a couple things. So for me, because I was a fighter, I always lifted weights. I was a gymnast. I always did pull-ups. I always did dips. I always did stomach and lower back. And as a gymnast, you know that if you're going to do 25 jackknife sit-ups where you touch your toes in a V, then you know that you do 25 back exercises to equal it out. And that's what's important because there has to be antagonistic. So here's what's happening. A lot of guys are working their abs, but they're not working their lower back. I was always a proponent of working my body and getting my body strong, keeping my body strong, staying in shape. I was running all the time, always conditioning. I had asthma as a kid, so my biggest fear was to run out of breath. So in order for me to overcompensate, I would run every single day. Everyone would say, hey, after class, I noticed you run all the time. Do you have a fight coming up or something? I go, no, I'm just trying to keep my edge. Sorry, these guys, I think moving company's coming in here. Yeah, it was just stuff like that. But I always knew like my edge over other people was the fact that I was flexible, super flexible, and I was strong for my size. Because we had to do 200 pull-ups, 200 dips, 200 push-ups, 200 stomach exercises after we did our gymnastics routine, which was tiring by itself. But that was after we set up all the equipment. And then when we did all of our workout and then we did our calisthenics, then we had to tear all the equipment down and put it back in. And we had to do that every day. Gymnasts are the strongest athletes in the world, pound for pound.
Yeah, actually, the funny thing is I got a little son. He's a little 7-year-old guy. And I've got him doing gymnastics, and he comes to me and says, "Dad, I don't really like gymnastics." I say, "It's okay, son. It's just, like building a house, brick by brick. This is going to help you get stronger for other sports and other things you do in the future." Like, he's doing BJJ as well, but I'm sticking in gymnastics for guys like yourself and guys like GSP that mention how good a foundation it can give you.
Well, so I actually brought gymnastics back into our fight training. So towards the end of my coaching career as a fight coach, I brought my gymnastics coach in, and I made him stretch and do all the calisthenics with the guys. So we had tumbling routines. We have a mini tramp. We were doing flips. We were doing a cat and mouse, where you have to chase someone around, try to catch them, but you have to hit the trampoline. So we had cat and mouse. Then we had our tumbling sets, which were dive rolls, front handsprings, front head springs, cartwheels, back extensions. So we were combining all of that. And if you could do a round off, you could do a back handspring, round off back handspring, or round off back flip. So I was trying to get the guys to tumble, and then I just noticed that a lot of the guys were like, "Oh, this is hurting this is hurting," and they kind of putted out. And I go, "Hey, I just want to let you guys know, I'm paying this gymnastics coach to come in and train you guys. It's coming out of my pocket. And if you guys are going to sit on the sidelines, guess what? You don't deserve it. If you're going to sit there and watch the whole time, you don't deserve it." So I just ended up stopping it. But what I did do after that is I created this conditioning series called Combat Conditioning. There's combat cross training, combat conditioning. And I came out with 4 DVDs, and it was all gymnastics exercises, all the different push-ups, all the handstand push-ups, all the rope climbing exercises, all the pull-ups, all the dips, all the stomach exercises, core exercises, running, tumbling sets, 4 of them. These are all just strength and conditioning exercises. Then I put in my fight practice, all the warm-ups that we used to do for fight practice, bodyweight strength exercises, which is just you and another person, which is wrestling and gymnastics. And I did fast hand speed exercises, fast feet exercises. And then my friend did a Silat warm-up from, he's a capoeira Silat guy from the Inosanto Academy, my friend Ryan, and he did an entire routine on which all the jiu-jitsu guys now are starting to use, borrow, steal, or whatever. It doesn't matter, because it's very applicable for gymnastics and for Silat and for jiu-jitsu.
Cool. And the applicability of gymnastics to being a fighter, how does it cross over? Is it body awareness, strength? How does it sort of cross into that?
Well, if you develop your spider senses, imagine Spider-Man fighting in the UFC. I mean, the ability to your quick twitch muscle fibers, your endurance, your flexibility, your strength, that all helps out a considerable amount. I know when I was a blue belt, one of my friends was a black belt, and he asked me if he could help me get ready for my fight. And I was like, "Sure. What do you want to do?" And he goes, "Well, I'd like you to come to the garage and go on the mat with me, and you see if you could pass my guard and try to submit me, and I'll see if I could submit you and take you down." And I was like, "I'd be happy to. Thank you." And it was even Steven.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know why? And I figured it out. I was blue belt, but I was also a 17-year blue belt, which is considerably different than other people. 17 years as a blue belt, I should have had a black belt 5 years old, 5 years or 7 years over that, but it didn't matter, because my whole theory on that was if you are a well-conditioned athlete that can wrestle, you're a well-conditioned athlete that is super strong, flexible and you have a tank of gas that doesn't quit, man, you're tough as shit, you know, and your awareness. You take a guy that's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, most black belts, unless you're competing, they don't run. They don't lift weights all the time. They're not getting 2 or 3 workouts in a day. They're not working their flexibility. They're working on their jiu-jitsu skills, you know, and they're rolling or whatever. Or, you know, like maybe some guys today are running and doing more conditioning exercises, but we were by far overtraining back then. I mean, I'm looking at 3. I was a light heavyweight, 185 pound, 190 pound fighter, and I was training 3 times a day. And I was doing 5 to 6 days a week.
Sounds like a heavy workout.
It's too much.
Yeah.
But that's how you're going to get good. The only way to get good. I mean, the reason I trained so much and so hard was because, first of all, there were no rules. So we didn't even know. We didn't know. We're like, we should just train until we can't train anymore. Yeah. That was the first thing. You train until failure. The second thing was, but there were the rules. Nobody really knew what was training and overtraining. And I said, well, how do you know when you're overtraining? When you're staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m. because you can't sleep, that means you're overtraining. Also diet. Like I didn't understand. I ate any and everything because it didn't matter because it would go through your body so fast because you're training so hard. Yeah. You know, and then when you quit fighting and you quit training that hard, you have to change your diet. You gotta still walk, or you gotta run, you gotta exercise, you gotta move, you can't sit still, you gotta stay active. And I noticed, like during the COVID stuff, one of the biggest factors to help just stay mentally positive was just to spar. I was meeting with my friend and we were doing boxing and kickboxing drills. And when we meet up, we would do 1,000 punches and kicks. I just said, we need to get our numbers in. We don't have to punch each other in the face hard, but we have to, you know, we've got to go after each other a little bit. We've got to do our combinations and drills and all the technical aspect, but we have to have high numbers. And that's based on just moving. And that's what gets your brain, your cognitive assimilation with your brain, your synapses, it gets it firing because you're moving. So movement, a lot of people that have Alzheimer's and stuff, the best thing they could do, or Parkinson's, get out and start walking, swimming, walking, running, riding bike. That helps with your brain a lot.
Yeah. Hey, you mentioned then about you guys didn't really know a lot of things back then. What was overtraining? Over these years, things have really developed so much. It must be a bit of an eye opener for you. And what things do you think have benefited MMA fighters? An example for these guys in terms of these little things that people can do to get better. To, you know, you mentioned diet, people doing lots of rest and recovery, strength and conditioning, all the sort of science that's come into it.
Well, weight cutting has changed. I see weight cutting for a lot of people. You know, they're watching their food, their salt and sugar, definitely extremely important. Your caloric intake, very important. Eating the right foods. Like for me, when I was getting ready for fights, I would eat carbs up until 6 p.m. and I had no carbs after 6 p.m. And then the closer I got to my fight, it was 12. I would eat carbs up to noon and then no carbs after noon. It was all protein and vegetables. Another thing is, I have to say this one because a lot of fighters today, they kick and they hit someone in the knee. They go, oh, my shin. Oh, I got a bump on my shin. And then the coach goes, go ice it. Go put ice on it. It's like, shut up, you puss. Train through your session. When you're done training, get your ice on your shit. You know, I can understand, like if you tear your knee or you hurt your knee really bad, go get ice on it right away. But a bump and a bruise, you know, work through your workout. Like don't just stop and go baby yourself and put ice. Now, ice has its place. If it's a tear, not a strain so much, but a tear, if you're tearing something, you definitely need ice on that right away. But you can finish your workout. You know, some people just use it as an excuse to stop training. You know, I watched this guy punch a heavy bag, and he rolled his wrist when he hit a right cross. And he's like, "Oh, I can't hit the bag anymore." I go, "What about your jab, your front, your jab, your hook, your uppercut, your elbow? Instead of punching, you use your elbow, right?" And then I fought in Japan, and I kicked this guy really hard in the leg, and he blocked it with his knee, and I had a big bump on my shin. So I went to get my bag workout in. I punched, kicked the bag, and I was like, "Oh man, I can't kick the bag." And Guru Dan, my teacher, goes, Dan Inosanto, says, "Well, you can knee the bag, and it's the same as a kick." And I was like, "Huh?" He goes, "Yeah. So if you break your knuckles, you elbow the bag. If you have a shin injury, you knee the bag." He goes, "That way you can still get your workout in. You work through your injuries." So that's a big one for a lot of people. Or the other thing is they get injured in their practice. They get an injury and they get pulled out of their fight. "Oh, I can't fight. I twisted my finger. Oh, I can't fight. Oh, my back hurts." It's like, man, I had something wrong for every single fight.
Do you think the new sort of new age fighters versus old age, a little bit less intestinal fortitude, do you think, with what you're saying?
Everyone's different. There are some just tough guys that just work really hard. And I think a lot of the older guys, we just trained really hard because there were no guidelines. So you never knew, like, and every time we sparred, it was hard sparring, hard rolling, hard grappling. We didn't know, like, there's different. It wasn't until later that I kind of came up and formulated a game, different way to train fighters. I started breaking down, like, Mondays was shoot box day. Tuesdays and Thursdays was hard MMA. Wednesdays was specifically all grappling and ground and pound. So it's stuff like that. I think you need to kind of break it apart a little bit. I don't think it's good to do MMA sparring all the time. I think it's good to also work cage. We have cage days, which is takedown practice. And then we have get up practice, where you have to get taken down and get back up, get up. Tackle prevention. So we have a whole set of drills that stop you from, if you get taken out, how to get back up. And then also timing drills when you're sparring, how to get in and grab somebody and take them down. And then we hand fight all the time. We do wall survival drill for your eyes. Those are two things. Seal control is when someone's on your back and you're fighting their hands. You don't let them in so they can't take you down. Those are three really important drills, which I've actually started teaching in self-defense seminars also. The wall survival, you put someone on the wall and somebody punches, you use your windshield wiper defense, your double pillar defense, your oh shit cover defense, your alternate elbow defense, and then you break the rhythm on the half beat and you grab them. You grab their head, you grab their body, you grab their legs. And so what that teaches you is how you, in the midst of combat, how to grab somebody by breaking the rhythm and interrupting the timing. The hand fighting is actually I got it from Rico Chiapparelli, and it was Iowa wrestling. And when you walk in, you're trying to pummel. It's the 5 types of pummeling that you do, which is the head, the neck, the chest, the bicep, and the wrist pummeling mixed with the pushing and the pulling and the snapping and the popping. And you could take the hands off your neck. You could shove them up. You could scoop them down. You could shuck them. You can push them across the face. There's all different ways to take someone off your neck. So that's another one. And then if someone arm drags you, what are your counters to the arm drag? Do you let them get your back? And then once they're on your back, how to fight the hands and break the hooks. Peeling the fingers out of the armpits, peeling the fingers off the chin. V defense, we call V V defense, which goes in the bicep and the crook of the elbow and the wrist. And then if they shoot, you block their wrist. So these are all part of the defense that we work to stop somebody from getting their hands on you and taking you down. But we break it apart, then we put it back together. And I made a mistake. I pulled my game apart and I didn't put it back together before a fight. So my timing was off. So I came out and I went crack, crack, and I cracked the guy 3 times, and they shot on me and I didn't sprawl. And I was like, man, I don't get it. I've been wrestling, I've been boxing, I've been kickboxing, I've been doing jiu-jitsu, I've been doing judo. I can't understand how I missed that sprawl. And then I think it was Rico Chiapparelli said, have you been doing MMA sparring? And I go, I just broke it up and I never put it back together. So I hadn't been doing much MMA sparring, but I was doing all segmented training for each art. And I didn't put it all back, which is the big picture, because realistically, you know, you're hitting somebody in the face and they're shooting on you. And if you can't sprawl at that time, you know, that was what happened with that. So the MMA sport is extremely important.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, but it's also important that you break it apart to work on your strengths and weaknesses.
For sure. And having like seen that evolution and been part of it, like trying to break things apart and then put them back together and everything. You also mentioned that in the fighting side of competition, it's changed quite a bit too, from the way you were talking about the old days of lots of kind of like the Wild West in there, you know, lots of rules being changed, rules being broken in there, rougher, sort of more rough housing and that, while you're actually competing, right?
Rules also being made.
Yeah.
Because again, it was there was nothing before us. I mean, you're not going to watch the old Vale Tudo fights in Brazil, because it was 2 guys with horrible boxing just wailing at each other with a crummy shot, and then 2 guys getting on the ground that were really good. And there was so much piss and vinegar and anger and machismo, ego, and you know, you're defending your name or your family or your club or whatever it was. So you're fighting for your tribe rather than being a personal sport, you know, where you're a fighter and you have fanfare and your ranking and your money is involved. I mean, that's today's world.
Yeah, true. Hey, having trained all these different sports or different combat sports for so long, what are your favorite sort of areas? You know, I hear you talk a lot about catch wrestling. Is that one of the top sort of arts to you?
Well, so I wear a gi. Sorry, when I teach, I put a gi on every night that I teach, and I roll and drill, takedown, and ground. And we do a lot of choking, a lot of manipulation with the gi, sweeps, throws, foot sweeps, leg trips, and attacking. I don't care. Like, positioning was my motto. I mean, I was an expert positioner. So when I fought, someone would hand me a tape of my opponent, and I would look at him. I go, I'm going to out-position them. I'm going to pass their guard and get through their legs and then get to a good spot, and then I'm going to submit them. And so for me, I'm not a point player. You know, I don't get the takedown and hold them and then pass and hold and hold. My whole objective is to submit you. I mean, that's the whole thing. Why know so many submissions if you can't use them, right? Or get really good at 2 submissions and submit everybody with them. That's the other thing. So I think for competitors, you need to get really good at 3 submissions, just really good at 3 things. And those are your go-tos and your bread and butter. And you're going to use those to catch everybody with them. And then when you become a teacher, you have to learn more about all the other stuff, because those 3 submissions that were good for you aren't good for some of your other guys. You might have guys that are really heavy that can't do it. And you might have little guys that are little girls or little or big girls or little girls or big guys or little guys, body styles that may not fit their game. So as a teacher, it also makes it exciting when you have a good arsenal of things to pull from, rather than the same 2 or 3 boring techniques you keep showing every time. It's good because my objective as a teacher is to enlighten everyone's minds, expand their minds, make it fun, exciting, understand the health benefit. We're more like our gym is more of a health style gym than just a full-blown fight school, because everyone's coming in for their health. So it's extremely important that you roll and spar every day, because what do you do when you go to the gym? You lift weights, you get on the treadmill or the rowing machine, and you're trying to just get your body in shape so you feel good and you look good and your mind's right. And the same thing for our school. It's like, okay, you can learn technique, but everyone's like, are we going to roll? Well, it's a privilege, not a right. So like when you walk in, that's a privilege that you get to roll. But I let guys roll from the first day they come in. And they say, well, why is that? Why would you allow somebody to spar or roll from the first day they come in? And I said, well, what are you going to do this weekend? You're probably going to go out and have a beer or two with your buddies. You're going to watch a UFC or whatever, football or whatever, and you're going to come back and you're going to get in a wrestling match in your living room with your friends, and there's alcohol. Or you're going to be dumb and you're going to watch the fights, and then you're going to think that you're a fighter, and then you're going to put some gloves on and you and your buddies are going to spar in your living room or the backyard. And I said, at least this way I could keep an eye on you guys. We could teach you how to learn control, how to defend and attack, and you get to do it every day, because there's only one thing that really makes you better every day as far as martial arts, and that's the application of martial arts. You could do your katas and your forms and all that stuff, but it's good, but everything has its place. But it's always nice to go hands-on. Slipping a jab. How do you know if you could slip a jab unless you slip a jab? This kid goes, how do you get better at grappling? And I said, well, you got to grapple. He goes, how do you get used to getting hit? And I go, you got to get hit. And I said, how do you learn how to swim? He goes, you jump in the deep end. That's it. You got to. So from day one, people are so surprised when they come in. They go, do we actually get to roll on day one? I go, you bet. There's not enough time on earth for you to get better on the ground. And you have to start rolling right off the bat, so you understand what it is, even if you don't know anything, because you kind of do, because you've seen it on TV. So some guys, they don't know anything. They come in, they just hold you, and they get all tired. Now they're understanding what they're doing wrong. First of all, you're holding so hard, and you're so scared that somebody's going to get free and get a better position or submission that you hold them really tight, and then you run out of gas.
Yeah.
So teaches you control and moderation and timing, and then the important principles like positioning, and then submission should be the end of the road. But I'll tell you, when you teach a seminar on escapes and defense, people are yawning the whole time. As soon as you show a leg lock or you show some submissions, they start getting excited. Because that's the end all of the match in the end, right?
Yeah.
So, if I was to do a kickboxing seminar, I go, here's how you're going to defend against a kick. Here's how you defend against you'd be bored. And I go, hey, let me show you this four-piece combo. Jab, cross, low hook, right leg chop. Then people, they start to get excited because they want to actually do it.
That's true. Hey, in all these different styles that you work on, what would you say you've drawn from the most? Which martial arts have you drawn from the most in a general sort of sense in your teaching?
Oh boy. Well, I've always loved the judo, and I've always loved the jiu-jitsu. when I started doing the catch wrestling, which was the shudo, which was the no gi. I loved it because I learned wrestling with it. And wrestling, not just standing, not just on the feet, but on the ground. There's a lot of wrestling there. And then combining the jiu-jitsu with the escaping and the transitions and the movement and the wrestling, for me, that was a big take. And I love that. And you can move a lot freer without a gi. There's more, so there's more options, I'm told, with a gi because of the chokes and stuff. But you'll take a guy that's not as good as you. Like let's take the gi off. He doesn't hold a candle to you. You put a gi on, now he can slow the game down by grabbing your clothes and holding you. So that's the difference. And what art do I grab? Do I take from? JKD, I take a lot of the principles with the center line theory, the broken rhythm theory, the interruption. And I add that to my kickboxing, which is the Muay Thai and the Sabat. When you clinch up, to me, is dirty boxing, knees mixed with your foot sweeps. And the dirty boxing is one of my favorites from the tie up. And then I start throwing people. And then when I hit the ground, I attack. Immediate shudo mentality that I learned is complete aggressive attacking. You attack, you try to submit. So the whole thing with the shudo is how fast can you submit your opponent? And that theory came because in the old days, when you would take your partner down, we weren't allowed to punch the face. So you had to submit your opponent. And in 15 seconds, if you didn't submit them, you were back to your feet kickboxing again.
Yeah.
So you learn to attack extremely fast. And I remember Sensei Yuri brought me in class. I was getting ready for a fight. He goes, okay, you got 12 guys back to back. You got to take every single one of them down. Kickboxing, ready, go. And if you fart around and you goof off, you're going to get tired. So I had to line everyone up and go through every single guy and take them all down. And then once I did that, he goes, okay, line them back up. He goes, now you have to take them down and submit them. So we started on the feet, and I had to take everyone down and submit them. And then line them back up. You line them up, and he goes, okay, you have to submit each person. And I remember I started doing some guard work and some playing. He goes, what? He goes, stop. What are you doing? And I go, what do you mean? He goes, quit playing. You got 12 guys to submit. He goes, get moving. You're wasting your time playing. This isn't the time to play. You need to attack. And I was like, wow, right there, that's a mind shift. Immediately, that's the mind shift. So what does that mean? That means the rounds are anywhere from 5 seconds to 30 seconds. The longest round for the submission wrestling should be a minute at the most. That's not very long, is it?
That's very fast.
That means you attack as fast as you can.
Yeah, that's interesting. What are your thoughts on the current state of like BJJ? You know, you've got some guys like Donaher's guys that are really seeking the submission, but a lot of people are just like trying to get the points, win, and stalling, right?
To me, that's boring. You're playing a game, which is fine. I understand that. But go after the submission. I mean, at the highest level, you know, like how'd you win? Oh, I passed his guard. I held him in side control. Time ran out and I won by what, 3 points or whatever. Or I passed his guard. I underhooked him and hit a spinning armbar right to a leg triangle. Yeah. I mean, hands down, you're going to want the submission over the win from the points.
And that's kind of the essence of it, right? The essence of it is to try and get that finish, right?
Well, so I'm in a jiu-jitsu tournament and my guy's competing and he gets a half a takedown on the guy, right? And the guy turns his back. He's fighting his hands. He comes out. The guy shoots. My guy counters him. Time runs out. They didn't even hit the ground. My guy raises his hand. He's like, I won. I go, what a boring match, first of all. Like, You guys didn't even hit the ground. It's jiu-jitsu. You got a half a point because, not a half a point, but you got the advantage because you were attempting to take him down and you almost got him down and he didn't shoot on you once. I mean, how do you count that as a victory? But that's what people, like, it's like that. Or a guy takes you down, passes your guard, and holds you to death. And the crowd's going, boo, let's see some action. He goes, no, I'm holding him. I'm winning. And then time runs out and he goes, yes, I did it. I like the submission only stuff. It shows the craft more, I think. I know Javier Vasquez started doing the submission only tournaments.
And what do you think about time limits? What do you think about time limits? Do you think it should be an open sort of time limit to really test people?
No, well, I mean, are you talking about super fights?
Yeah, like super fights, yeah.
Okay, super fights, yeah. I think maybe a 30-minute time limit.
Yeah.
But like in the old days, in the old boxing days, the matches would go on and they'd have, 98 rounds. I mean, you imagine being in the crowd, like, oh, they're still going? Yeah, you were asleep for a half hour. I don't know. Spectator sport, I think time limits are good for spectator sports.
Yeah, true. Hey,
but, yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, agreed. Hey, just jumping on to the early days, you did a lot of private lessons with some of the best, namely the couple of jiu-jitsu teachers that you mentioned before, the Gracies, Rickson and what was the other one you mentioned? Sorry, Rickson and
my first jiu-jitsu teacher was
all right.
Master Horan.
Yeah.
Master Horan, and then Royce.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to get more ground, and I had heard about Rickson, and he was teaching in his garage, so I took a private. And then it was weird because Royce gave me the ultimatum. He said, how is your private with my brother? And I said, oh, you heard about that? He goes, yes, we are family. And I was like, it was really good. We got to work on the ground, and I wanted to get more ground stuff, ground information, instead of, because we did a lot of self-defense.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, you know what? I never, ever to this day say, oh, I can't believe I had to do all that self-defense. Because guess what? I still use it today. And there's a lot of people that never learned that. They only learn sport jiu-jitsu. They don't have the self-defense stuff. And that's important today with the way everything is in the world, that you're including self-defense. I mean, jiu-jitsu was based off of self-defense. That's what the whole thing was, for a smaller person to empower themselves with the ability to defend themselves. But so I never cared about that. But so I was lucky. I got Orion, Royce, then Rickson. I got a private with Hoyler at that time. He came into Rickson's and he was doing privates. I got to train with some other Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys from other teams, but I just would do privates or a few privates, or I would do a seminar with them. Those in the early days, like the early 90s. And then after that, I started with the Machados because I fought in a bare knuckle fight. And then Rickson just said, maybe it's time you quit training with me because you're fighting professionally in these bare knuckle events, and you might fight one of my guys. And I was like, but I am your guy. I mean, I've been with you almost 5 years. How am I not your guy? I do private lessons, group classes with you. And I'm looking out, trying to get you movie work and send you students. And I mean, how is that? How am I not your guy? And he said, well, you train at another school also. And I said, I train at the Inosanto Academy, and I do Thai boxing, Shudo, Filipino Kali, the JKD, the C-Lot. I do all that. I said, but that's all separate. This is different than that. It's 100% different. And not only that, I'm taking the students from the academy when they're asking me, and I'm bringing them over to Rickson School to get them to sign up. So I was trying to help people, but sometimes that backfires. and that's okay, because your evolution of your career changes because maybe you have a restriction, and that was a restriction on me at that time. So I quit training jiu-jitsu for about a year. And then I was a bartender in Manhattan Beach for all of those guys. I used to always give them free juice when they'd come in. They would come in to sunsets, and we had a great dance floor, and it was a beach bar. So there was always a lot of beautiful girls there in bikinis. So they always would come in and see me, and they'd say hello, and I'd give them juice. And so anyways, I remember 1994, Rigan Machado came in, and he said, "Hey, how's your jiu-jitsu going?" He ordered a orange juice, and he said, "How's your jiu-jitsu?" And I go, "Oh, it's kind of non-existent right now." And he goes, "What do you mean?" And I go, "Well, I've been fighting in Japan since 93. And it was like the end of 94, almost 95. And I said, I fought in a bare knuckle fight here because I just wanted to fight. And I didn't fight any Brazilians. And I even said I wouldn't if I got to that point. I fought in a bare knuckle event. And Henzo was in the event. I got permission. I mean, Rickson and his wife at that time both said, "Yeah, no problem." And I said, I went up for the commercial because I was a stuntman, stunts and acting. And I went up for the commercial, and we got the commercial. Me and Chad Stahelski, the director of John Wick, we were partners, demonstrated all the arts for World Combat Championship. Yep. They go, "You want to be an alternate?" And I said, "What are the odds of me fighting at a crazy event like this?" And they go, "Oh, 10%. And the next day I get a phone call. They go, "Hey, you're fighting." And it's funny because I never even asked about the money.
Yep.
So I fought 2 fights back to back, bare knuckle. And they paid me $1,200 for 2 fights. And I got elbow here, elbow here. I had a black ear, and I had a black around my cup, or you guys call it the box, but I call it a cup, a protective cup. I got kneed in the groin like 20 times, and I heard my cup break. I heard it go and split, and I knew it. And it was so funny because I was so anxious after the fight. They put a camera on my crotch, and I go, "Hey, watch this." And I pull my cup out, and it's dented and split in half from getting kneed. But I had bruise around my groin for 2 weeks after that. No, maybe I'm sorry, 2 months. I had a black bruise around from getting kneed so hard. But hey, it did its job. It protected my gonads.
That's it, man. That's what you wanted to do. No, I remember that. I heard that story. Actually, you mentioned that one before. Hey, going back to all the great coaches that you've had. I mean, some of those guys that you just mentioned, plus guys like Dan Inosanto and Ajarn Chai Sirisute and Benny the Jet, etc. Which ones kind of stand out, and like what about them sort of stands out to you in retrospect?
They all did. I have a memory. I have a steel trap memory, which is something that I've been gifted with. A long time ago, this lady so I was a bartender, and she sat down at this table, and she looked at me, and she said, it was early in the morning. I was at my beach bar overlooking the beach, and I was setting up the bar, and she comes in, and she goes, "Hello." I go, "Hi." She looks at me, and she goes, "What's your birthday?" And it was just kind of out of the blue, and I was like, So I told her, and she sat there, and she's just writing the stuff down as she was looking at the water. She came up to me afterwards, and she said, "Can I talk to you?" She goes, "I did your charts." And I was like, "I don't even know you. Like, why did you feel like you had to do my charts?" And she's like, "I have some stuff I need to tell you." So I wrote a story in a magazine. It was called "When an Angel Walked Into My Bar." And it talks about me giving her all my information. And then she came up, and I was 28 years old, and she told me all this stuff I was going to do in my future. And it all came true, every single thing. But one thing she said is, she said, "I need you to do me a favor. And I need whenever you can, when you get home after work and stuff, she goes, you need to grab a notebook and a pen and start writing. She goes, you have more information inside of you than anyone I've ever done charts for. She said, you are brought here to record. You're a recorder. And I was like, what does that mean? She said, do you remember things really well? And I was like, yeah, when I learn stuff, I always remember stuff. Sometimes I forget names, but that would be one thing, names. But as far as techniques and as far as training, and I can recall instances since I was a little kid. Hey, remember this one time? I could do that one really well. But so I think that's one thing that I had been gifted with, was the ability to record information. And I also have an extremely creative mind. It's very expansive, and I never looked at anything as set. I always thought, oh man, look at all the variations that could come off of that one, or all the, look what you could do with this, whatever it was. So you can take something very simple and make it magical just by your creation, your creative mind. And I was always positive because I always felt connected to God since I was a little kid. Even when my mom spanked me one time, I could barely talk. And I think I was probably mouthing off. And then she goes, wow. And I go, God's watching you. And she was like, I didn't know you could speak. I was probably like 2.
Yeah.
She said that was a huge surprise. Like, first of all, that I spoke, and second of all, what I said. Yeah. But I've always felt a strong connection with creator source energy. And I have some pretty crazy dreams. I mean, if I could actually plug in some of my dreams and make movies, you'd see some of the craziest movies in the world. But someone said in a feed, in a post, they go, so they're talking about Ralph Gracie, how he punched the Gracie Baja guy in the face and knocked his teeth out and was beating him up on the ground in a tournament. The guy goes, man, this guy goes, Ralph Gracie's crazy. And this guy goes, Erik Paulson's batshit crazy. He says he's a Christian, and if you're not a Christian, he won't roll with you. And I was like, where do you get that one? First of all, that's not true, because I was the king of rolling with everybody and anybody, and I would roll for 3 hours at a time. And I used to roll with everybody. That's how my timing got so good on the ground. And also self-discovery. I could tell you the next move you're going to go attack on me by just you laying on me, because I've had so many hours of rolling, like thousands and thousands of hours of roll time. So when people say stuff like that, it's not true. Here's what I said, and it was misconstrued. I said on a podcast, some of the best guys that I'm training right now for fighting are most of the ones that are married, because the guys that aren't married are out hunting or searching for young girls. They're going out trying to find a good girlfriend or whatever, trying to get hooked up. And I said, and sometimes when they do that, they go out and party. They go to strip clubs or whatever they're doing, but they're staying out. Anything after midnight that happens after midnight probably isn't that good anyways. You should probably be in bed by midnight. That's especially if you're fighting, you should be in bed by 10:30 if you're serious. So these guys are going out and staying out super late. They're partying and, get lap dances and whatever. And so what I said is, these guys are coming in the morning with filthy energy. They're hungover. And they said, hey, you want to roll? And I go, no, I don't want what's on you on me. Because you grab energy. You get attachments from shit like that. I got an attachment going into a bar. I was hanging out with my buddy in this Mexican bar. And we went and had a margarita and a beer. We're hanging out. And next thing you know, that night, I've always been super hypersensitive to energies, attachments, ghosts, stuff like that. Most of the time I don't see them, but I feel them. I could feel energy really good. I'm kind of like an empath. So sometimes stuff like that affects me. And so that's all I was saying was I don't want someone's filthy energy. Hey, if you want to fight, that's another thing. You want to put on the gloves and mix it up? I don't have a problem with that. But do I want you laying and hugging on me? I don't know. If you just rolled around in a bunch of donkey dung, would I want to roll around with you and get that on me? No. So I don't think you would either. That's all that was.
And
It had nothing to do with me as a Christian not wanting to roll with other people that weren't. Guys misconstrue stuff a lot.
yeah. No, as you're mentioning, you definitely have too much knowledge. Really, you can just feel it just flowing out of you. Really, when you talk, you just everything. It feels like we don't have enough time in the day to probably talk to you about all you've learned. Right?
That. So I had to make a choice. For me, choosing, because I love martial arts so much, and I was doing so many martial arts. I wanted to see what worked and what didn't work. And I also was a massage therapist too. I was working on a lot of people. I had 100% success rate for healing people, and I had to make a choice: beat people up, try to beat people up for a living, or try to heal people. And I always knew, like later on, after fighting, after I got done, with all the pugilistic stuff, that I could actually get back into the meditation and the healing stuff. So I work with different groups. We do a lot of prayer work for people who are sick, who have cancer, or ailments or mental illness and things like that. I believe in the power of prayer. I think it's extremely strong. I think we are more stronger human beings than we have any idea about. I think we've been dumbed down throughout the years. So I believe in positive affirmations, words. I believe our words are magnetic, and that what we say attracts what we say, comes out of our mouth or our hearts, attracts the things that are around us. And I know that because I used to always talk about ghosts, and I used to have ghosts around me all the time. And then, I kind of went through some time. I was going through a bad relationship, and I was negative, and I said negative, and I just had that negative vibe around. You could feel it was negative. And I think later on, you kind of learn your way. And I think meditation every day, get your feet in the grass for 5 to 15 minutes, connect with source creator energy, get sunlight on your face, eat healthy, drink a ton of water, have a glass of red wine every day.
Actually, that leads into something I want to talk to you about is, ideas and tips that you have for just general people about keeping healthy and keeping fit and motivating yourself to do exercise, etc. It leads into that.
Well, I think one thing, a lot of people live in fear because they're godless. If you have the spirit of the power or the love from above, and it's in and through you, then you're not fearing all this crap that's going on around you, because things will be okay. Things are going to get better. If you sit here and thrive and you watch the news and you live in fear, because that's what they want. They want you to live in fear because you're easily manipulated when you're in a fear state of mind. But what happens when you're not afraid? Stuff like that doesn't affect you. Oh crap, how are we going to get to you? So could be the next phase, which let's cut off food supply. That's another one, because now we control the food. We can manipulate you by not allowing you to eat food. So there's all different steps that they're using to try to manipulate and control people, so to be fearful. And the hardest person to control is someone who has faith in a higher power, and they don't live in fear. I don't live in fear. I'm a hopeful person. I want to help everybody. I'd love to see humanity thrive, and I would like to see everyone do extremely well and shift their consciousness. I would love to have people that were just not all about themselves, but helping everyone else in the community of grappling. but everyone's thriving and striving to be the best, which is a good thing also, but that they're not helping other people. I mean, when I was a fighter in the old days in Shudo, this was a mountain and these were all the fighters climbing this mountain to be the best. And that's how it was. When it should have been like this, it should have been a ladder and everyone helping every other fighter get better so the league would get stronger. And if that can happen and people start helping, the ability that everyone's teaching now, showing information, BJJ Fanatics has done a great job with the exposure of so many different names and titles. They've really shifted the consciousness of grappling. They're also showing old school versus new school. And you could be like I'm old school originally, but I'm always learning new stuff. And not only that, I'm creating new stuff, always creating, because I'm still on the mat, rolling around, drilling and doing stuff. And I think one way for everyone to expand themselves is you should be watching some videos, but you need to be on the mat training regularly. And that's where your self-discovery comes in. They say if the more you're on the mat, the more you sweat, there's no secrets because you're learning them as you're moving. So that's extremely important. Competing also is important because you could take class and think that you're all this and all that. And then you go to a competition, you got a person in front of you that doesn't give a rat's ass who you are or what you know. And now you got to try to beat them up or submit them. And I like that aspect also. That changed my mind, was competition, which really changed and fueled my understanding from martial arts of what's real and what's not. I have to tell the story of kicking Thai pads. Chad Stahelski, the director of John Wick, and he was a really good Thai boxer, fast savant and boxing. And we were kicking Thai pads one day. I was like, man, we're kicking Thai pads so fast. Nobody can hit the pads as fast as we can. Look how fast we're hitting these pads. You could tell that we're getting ready for fights. That's what I'm thinking. So we go to Japan and we see these fighters kicking Thai pads right before their fight, and our jaw hits the floor. We're like, holy crap, how do these guys hit pads so fast? And my teacher looks right at us. He goes, because they fight. And that was it. I was like, I go, so he goes, when you fight, it's a different mentality. You see things through a different eye. And every fight you fight, every competition you have adds 6 months onto your training time. So if you've only got a year and you compete, you just add another 6 months on your training time because you're seeing things through a different light, a different eye. You got your mundane, normal drilling, rolling, and then you go in there and now all of a sudden everything's, I always trick myself when I was to fight. I always say everything is 10 times faster than what it should be. So if I'm going to jab, it has to be 10 times faster. Every time you punch or kick, it has to be 10 times faster, 10 times harder. If you shoot, you're going to shoot through your partner and it's going to be 10 times faster. If they shoot, they're shooting 10 times faster. If they punch, they're shooting or punching 10 times. So with that mentality, now your mind is in hyperspeed. Now you're going out there going, oh, and my eyes would, my boxing coach used to laugh at me because every time I get hit, my eyes would get bigger and bigger. Whereas a lot of people, when they get hit, they blink, right? I force my eyes open. So the more I get hit, I was like opening my eyes really wide. And a lot of guys look like they're eating a lemon. They're like this. So it was that mentality of just being hyper aware that the fighting changed a lot of the ways I thought. And that's how I kind of formulated and came up with a bunch of different drills and things that were more conducive for combat.
That's awesome. I think I've kept you for long enough. I would like to just ask quickly, like some of these principles and everything. Obviously, you've got some videos. Where's the best place to find them?
Well, on my website, I have ericpaulson.com. I have an online university.
Yep.
I think like $30 a month if you don't want to affiliate with us. Some guys that affiliate, then they teach our programs through their school. They have ranking. They get free camps where they can come and train 4 times a year. Then we have a universal camp, or it's our yearly conference. I've done that for 22 years now. And the reason I did that one is because I get to bring in people that I want to learn from. And then I get to bring them in and show all my friends. So all my friends get to train with Master Rigan Machado, or whoever the grappler will be at the time. Greg Nelson's always a staple in our camp. He's one of my best friends, and he beat cancer. So he's here for a purpose. And then Nathan Corbin, I just introduced him.
Legend.
Yeah, spectacular. And he showed everyone the mentality for how to drive an elbow through someone's head.
Yeah, he's great. I had a chat with him on here actually, and he's I've seen him fight in Macau as well. Yeah, he fought over here a long time back. Yeah,
impressive. Great mentality. Wow, just everyone was like, because the electric energy that came through him was just spectacular.
Yeah. You watch the demos, like you watch him doing the demos with the guides. It's very intense, right?
We had to go through 3 different guys because he was swapping them on the leg so good. But it was good because it was perfect for aesthetics. And then the last day we had Nikolai Sonyak, which we call, so you got this super aggressive, and then he's like, Salim is just like calm, smooth, and it's Savat. Savat is, it's a good addition to just straight Muay Thai because it allows you to just throw tons of combinations and stay active.
Yep.
So that's why we have the STX program is Savat Thai, the Thai for the full-on power hitting and the power tools, and then the Savat for the perpetual motion, constant hitting and in and out and elusiveness, like a boxer, but using the footwork. That's really good.
Awesome.
But that's why we do our camps. And as far as the videos, ericpaulson.com. I also have a few videos on bjjfanatics.com. And then our online university is definitely worth looking into. We have over 4,000 videos on there.
Perfect.
All different.
I'll definitely follow up myself, and hopefully some of the viewers will check it out too. Thanks so much for your time, Erik. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry we can only get a little 0.5% of what you know in a short time, but it's good to definitely.
I overtalked. Hopefully I didn't expose too much craziness, because that's, I think a lot of people think I'm cuckoo.
No, it's good. You've definitely got some gems in there amongst what we've talked today. So perfect. All right, man. Thank you.